Hello, listeners. Welcome to part 3 of the Trade Value Global Leaders 2026 Index. Write to me at jacobshapiro.com if you want me and Marco to see what you have to say. Otherwise, take care of the people you love. Cheers and see you around.
All right, it's the third installment of the Trade Value Index. So, for those of you who are listening to this straight through, God bless you.
Yes, kudos to you.
Fuck, man, you get the badge of courage, man. For this is probably hour 4 right now. I'm gonna say that we've recorded this over basically 2 weeks. Why? Because of everything that's going on. I did make one change. So for those of you who are listening to this straight, or just you're such loyal fans that you're keeping numbers, I have backed out on one thing I said in my first.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So you know how the NBA decided to delay the voting for the MVP and all the other because they were trying to assess whether Luka Doncic gets to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was the play-in games actually swung the Sixth Man of the Year award.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's happened here. I had time to sit and cook. And I know it's my turn. We ended, by the way, with your fifth, which is Narendra Modi. Great pick. Totally agree. Great pick. So it's really on me right now to kind of go. And I've already given my 15th, 14th, 13th, all of those. And many of you may have noted that where is Benjamin Netanyahu? I promised that he would be 11th on my list in the first hour of this podcast. And I was eating crow saying that, you got it right last year by putting him in your top 30. I didn't. Man needs to be given his flowers for incredible performance. My concern with Benjamin Netanyahu is that I do think long-term, success and viability does matter. I think Benjamin Netanyahu is James Harden. He's Kevin Durant. He's putting up historical numbers. You bring Benjamin Netanyahu into your country, he's going to deliver on a 12-month trajectory, period, end of story. Absolutely. But to what cost? Is he going to be using burner accounts to shit on his neighbors? You know what I mean? I mean, he will be, right?
Yeah. Is he going to be using massive amounts of state tax dollars to buy ice cream for his wife? Yes. This was a scandal in Israel in the early 2010s. Look it up if you think I'm... By the way, I went to that ice cream shop that he was getting it from. Excellent. But they were spending $400 a month or something just on pistachio ice cream.
I think the fact that Jacob Shapiro brought that as one of the things that Benjamin Netanyahu has done wrong is hilarious. So look, I think I had time to think about it. And all I'm saying to you, Jacob, is before the Iran war, I could have made the case that Donald Trump should therefore be on the top 30 because he also has delivered a lot within the 12-month kind of time horizon that I can objectively defend. I think the Iran war is TBD, although it's looking more and more like it's even on the 12-month horizon, not great for the U.S. But what
do you need to pause and take an inhaler from the TDS-DS inhaler? Because I'm feeling it very strong. Listen, it's a colossal fucking disaster. What are you talking about?
Okay, anyway, it's a colossal fucking disaster. But the point is, if we recorded this in January, you could say the tariff things wasn't as bad as it could have been. It generated revenue for the U.S.
But in the context of what was coming later, look at that inflation print that we just got.
Well, that's not because of tariffs. That's because of oil, the data centers, AI. We can talk about
prices
inflation.
Just started to turn around April, May 2025 for no particular reason.
Why didn't prices go up when the tariffs were instituted?
They did. It was just slow. The economists were wrong about how fast it was going to happen because they were misjudging inventory. And by the way, you're right. If he hadn't done these things, maybe he could have gotten himself out of it. But if this was in the plan book the entire time and he did that, anyway.
So that's where, no, but it's okay. I'm just saying this. I'm just saying a 12-month, imminent present reality can't be the only assessment. And I think we both agree with Benjamin Netanyahu, particularly, long-term trajectory of Israel, to what end is all of this happening? Even he himself said a couple of days ago what you and I have been suggesting, which is that, Israel may have to find other allies other than the U.S. And I'm okay, good luck with that. Who? Like,
No, I really like this comparison because what you're saying is that Netanyahu, he's either going to kill the chemistry of your team, in this case your country,
yes.
or he's going to do nothing to solve the chemistry of your team, which is that's Harden, that's Durant. If we want to be really tongue in cheek, like he's Kyrie, which there's so many layers of comparing
Wow.
Benjamin Netanyahu to
Wow.
Kyrie based on everything that's going on. And Kyrie's also rehabilitated himself in terms of team chemistry, but I can't help myself.
That's a good one. That's, that is just dripping with all sorts of double and triple entendres. So I like it. Okay, well, let me get back to my list. Since, yes, I have ejected Benjamin Netanyahu, I'm putting him in this TBD category.
Oh, you ejected him. He's gone.
He's gone completely. Yes.
Okay.
I have decided to eject him. And I'm not saying he's an honorable mention. I'm not saying he's a dishonorable mention. He's a TBD, right? Like, call me in 5 years. Call me in 5 years. Let's figure it out.
You're trying to avoid the fate of Daryl Morey. Daryl Morey just got fired in part because he bet the house on James Harden. You don't want to bet the house on James Harden.
I don't want to. But here's who I want to bet, at least some of the house. My eighth pick, I went deep into my bag. This is Nikos Christodoulidis.
Mm-hmm.
And this is basically the president of Cyprus. Why? This is another one of those where I like the degree of difficulty. It's very difficult to make a tiny island nation relevant, but Cyprus has become that over the last 48 months. It was literally attacked by Iran. You could say that this put it on the map, but it was already putting itself on the map by trying to manage a humanitarian corridor in Gaza. So it actually just stepped up to do something beneficial for humanity. And by the way, it was coordinating with Israel. It wasn't being annoying to Israel. It was trying to just say look, there's this humanitarian disaster. Can we help? Besides that, it is actually doing really well on macroeconomic metrics. So it has one of the lowest debt to GDP metrics in Europe. Good budget balance as well. Has demanded more sovereignty from the UK on the basis, which is why Iran attacked it. And also, what I like about Christodoulidis is that he is trying to reunify the island. Now, this is very weird. I mean, the top of Cyprus has basically been ruled by the local Turkish minority, which is majority in the north, since the island was divided, 50 years ago. The issue is that it's the Greek Cypriots that have rejected unification, which is ironic. The Turkish minority has actually been okay with that idea. And this is the first really leader of Greek Cyprus that's trying to do that. So again, it's a degree of difficulty, and just the amount of secular, structural, long-term things that he's trying to do is pretty impressive. Number 7, I believe this is your
cousin. Can I just jump in and say I pride myself on being able to have an opinion or a take on just about anything that comes up related to geopolitics, and I just want to say I have nothing to say about Cyprus. I haven't thought about Cyprus in years. I know nothing that's going on, and I should. It's a geopolitical hotspot as you're talking about with Turkey, but it's a 0 for me. I've got nothing.
I mean, this is Europe is my Southeast Asia to you. You know what I mean? This is how it is. Alexander Stubb gets my 7th pick. We, I think, failed to mention him last year.
We did. I'm still mourning the loss of Sana.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's right. We failed.
Did I just get canceled? Sorry, guys. I thought she was cool. I loved her. Do you remember, at the very beginning of the Russia-Ukraine war, somebody asked her, how can we bring the Russia-Ukraine war to an end? And she looked at the camera and she was like, Russia can go back. They can go home. They can stop invading. That's how the war ends. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Great.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think Stubb kind of gets both kudos for, again, Finland is a tiny country. It's big geographically, but, you're talking a relatively small country that, usually does not become relevant. Entry into NATO was a ballsy move. And I mean, it was, right? It ended basically 75 years of Finland-style neutrality. This is where Finlandization comes from as a geopolitical term. Finland had this tacit agreement that it would pursue democracy and capitalism, but effectively would be kind of allied with the Soviet Union. And for a while in 50s and 60s, even voted with the Soviet Union at the UN, just as a token, tax, geopolitical tax, a nod to the fact that they could be flattened by the Soviet Union. And, like obviously since the end of the Cold War, Finland has not pursued that. It was pretty neutral. And then also just the fact that he's been one of these leaders in Europe that knew how to, tug on President Trump's heartstrings. I think he gets that as well. All right, number 6 for Marco. This is where I'm eating massive amounts of crow. This is where I'm giving my biggest flowers to Jacob Shapiro. Volodymyr Zelensky.
Aha, there's my guy.
And I think that, you might as well just say where he fits on yours, because I know where we left off with you is that we still need to do 1. We all know that your second pick is Xi Jinping, but 3 and 4 are open. You might as well say where Zelensky fits on yours here.
He fits at number 3.
Boom.
So I had him right there. And please. Oh, you want me to do it?
Well, I'll let you do it. Yeah. You had him last year also. You had him ranked very high. You had him number 2. And so, yeah, I mean, why don't you explain to us?
Well, and I felt a little insecure last year about having him at number 2 because there were a lot of warning signals. I was in some sense giving him credit for past performance because I thought the degree of difficulty of what he did leading Ukraine at that moment when nobody, including, I want to speak for you. I didn't believe Ukraine was going to be able to defend itself.
I did.
But the dude went out in the streets and was like, come at me, Russia. I'm here. We're going to fight. These people are brave in lots of different ways, probably. Zelensky is the only person on this list who literally went into the street and could have been blown up or assassinated by the Russians and was like, come at me, bro. Incredible depth of character and bravery from a guy who was a stand-up comic, okay?
But was he at the same level of bravery as South Korea's own Lee Jae-myung? Storming the parliament.
Yeah, fine. So they can hang out together. I think he's braver though. He was positively Churchillian.
I'm being joking.
But he was starting to mismanage things. There was the failed counteroffensive. There was getting rid of Zaluzhny and some of these folks around him that empowered it. There was, it's hard to have elections in the context of a war, but
not really,
his popularity was flagging and blah blah blah. But you and I had a big disagreement.
Tendencies.
Which you had. Churchill had them too. If you go read William Manchester's incredible biography of Churchill, the opening couple pages is incredible because he's basically setting up the anti-Hitler, but he's still very much like Hitler. Who has all of these qualities that Hitler had, except he was willing to use them for good? In London, there was such a man. His name was Winston Churchill. Anybody who's at this level is going to have those tendencies. But I would just take us back to last year, when Zelensky went to the White House, apparently inappropriately dressed, and confronted President Trump there.
Yes.
And President Trump railed at him. You don't have the cards. Don't disrespect the United States, blah, blah, blah. And you thought it was a major mistake for Zelensky at the time. And I said, no. Zelensky's one of the only leaders in the world who can outdo Trump when it comes to performance art. This is a stand-up comic. This is a hit TV guy inside of Ukraine. And I think he played it perfectly. I think that was for the Europeans to come up and actually start helping him. I think it was for Ukrainians at home to say, hey, this guy has still got it. First, he was in the streets of Kyiv. Now he's in the White House taking shrapnel for us because we got to push forward with all these things. And you had the Europeans come in and replace that American support. He correctly identified that the U.S. was going to go nowhere in convincing Russia to do anything. And then this is the part that he gets to take credit for, but which is not of him. The Ukrainians figured out how to use drones to have long-range strike capacity. And so he gets to celebrate, the counteroffensive was awful. That was his idea and he was pushing it. But he was smart enough to see that Ukraine had made a huge defense and technological leap and not to get in the way, not to stick to his old bad decision. So you've got malleability and flexibility in him. I'm just very impressed. And he's such an unlikely character. Who would have thought 10 years ago, if you were watching Zelensky as a comic, that this guy was going to be playing at this level? It's almost like Jeremy Lin. He's out of nowhere and then suddenly he's knocking down game winners against.
If it lasted longer than 2 weeks, obviously. And I think absolute massive hat tip to you. You crushed it. The reason I didn't include him in my top 30 last time, I think he was my honorable mention for obviously heroic military action, but I didn't include him because of a meeting. You're right. And you crushed it. He played Trump almost. And he was a very good actor in it. Or maybe he did let his emotions get the best of him. But regardless, Trump actually does like it when you stand up to him. We talked about Sheinbaum jokingly renaming Western United States, like Mexican America or whatever. Like he respects, I think, Zelensky a lot. And I think you were right. My concern was that his ego got the best of it. And that you're the president of a country that needs American help. You should do whatever Trump wants. But he took a higher risk strategy, one that I wouldn't have. And that proves that he has enormous balls of steel. I mean, this man is like truly, as you say, very admirable. And I mean, like what he has done is very impressive.
Well, and I think in some sense, the biggest like endorsement that I can put for him and why he continues to be this high on my list is I think his ego did get the best of him. I think he drank his own Kool-Aid. That was what the counteroffensive was all about. And in the last 12 months, he's been able to correct that. You know, his chief of staff is now under investigation for corruption. This is one of the people that was closest to him. And he's like, no, I can't have corruption and be like in with the Europeans. This has to be fixed. I don't care. Yeah, I screwed up the counteroffensive. I need to listen to my generals and to the guys around me who actually know what they're doing and empower them. He was able to like be humble, but still be strong. That's a really difficult thing to do. And I also just want to say, Sheinbaum is interesting. You know, I had her at number 6. I know you have her high. We'll probably talk about this later when we record a 6-pack. Some very distressing signals in U.S.-Mexico relations. Like Sheinbaum has done, to your point, exactly what Zelensky didn't do. She has not stood up to Trump. She's tried to ingratiate herself. And I think both you and I have given her credit for that. But that check might be coming due a little bit with some of the things that have been happening in U.S.-Mexico relations just over the past 2 weeks. I'm sure we'll get into it later, but I just want to put a little asterisk next to Claudia because what's happened since we started recording this versus where it is now, like her efforts are about to be sorely tested.
Yeah, that's the danger of doing this draft over a course of 2 weeks. A couple of things I want to add about Zelensky. What really made me, I was going to put him in top 30 no matter what, just because you were right. Like I concede, you were correct about that meeting. It was great. But there was another reason I put him in the top 10. The reason he's number 6, everything you just said is correct. But when he started attacking energy infrastructure of Russia while Hormuz is closed, like, bro, you know what I mean? That's diabolical level of just shitcanery. He just does not give a flying F at all. And I was like, wow, this man is cold. You know, that's cold.
Yeah.
He basically just said, oh, Europe, like Europe, America, South Korea, Japan, you guys have an energy crisis. Like the guy who's slovenly trying to ingratiate himself to the West so he can like get the crumbs off the West's table would have said, hey, whatever you guys need. But he's like, no, fuck you guys. All of you.
Yeah. I mean,
all of you.
I know that the comparison I'm about to make is also like sort of fraught with trouble because Zelensky is a yid. But I mean, he's under his leadership, Ukraine has become the Israel of the 1950s.
Right. Yes.
It's a very similar thing. And so in some sense, we might call him the David Ben-Gurion of Ukraine. Like 100%. He's the guy. Like it's pretty.
He's like, oh shit, you guys are now worried because 20 million barrels of crude can't exit Hormuz? Well, let me hit Russian infrastructure in the Baltic. Yeah.
And then let me also sign drone deals with you. So you have to come to me and I'll teach you how to use drones.
So that's my second point. The second point was the way that Ukraine has become an exporting powerhouse. Now, I've had this view for a while. So even though I wasn't sold on Zelensky, I was sold in Ukraine. I call it a garrison state. I'm super bullish on Ukraine, and I think it will become the South Korea of the next 30 years. And Israel, fine. I wrote a report for my clients a year ago where I literally made that comparison. Countries that are beset with geopolitical violence and insecurity almost always rise to the challenge. You know, so Israel, South Korea, Western Germany, there's a ton of these examples of garrison states. To your point, how much of this is really thanks to him? Well, it is. I mean, he is the guy leading a country in war. So yeah, he should get the flowers. Finally, a couple of other things. His popularity remains around 60%. It did dip, but it's come back up, as you were pointing out. And I just want to read this one gem from the Center for Strategic and International Studies. And all of you Putin fans out there are going to be like, that's American propaganda. No, relax, brother. It's not. I can look at a fucking map. You know what I mean? After seizing the initiative in 2024, direct quote, Russian forces have advanced at an average rate of between 15 and 70 meters per day. So after seizing the initiative in 2024, so 2 years ago, Russian forces have advanced at an average rate of between 15 and 70 meters per day in their most prominent offensives, slower than almost any major offensive campaign in any war in the last century. Period. End of sentence. Welcome, Volodymyr Zelensky, to the top 10. All right, number 5. You're going to love this one. You know what I mean?
Can't wait.
You're going to love this one.
I can't wait. I'm already loving this episode so far. Feel great.
Leo fucking 14th. Let's go. Vatican.
Wow, the Pope.
The Pope. Vatican is back, baby. It's back. American Pope. Jacob Shapiro's call of 2025, I believe. This was the call of 2025. You heard it here. Jacob Shapiro dropped the mic. He called that the American Pope would be here. We got an American Pope. He's from Chicago, Chi-Town, baby. And he's absolutely crushing it. Stood up to Trump, called him out. And then Donald Trump is like, I'm going to invade the Vatican. And he's like, oh shit, a lot of Catholics are actually conservative and don't like that. Let me send Marco Rubio to the Vatican to ingratiate ourselves to the Pope. And the Pope gives him 17 minutes. You know what I mean? Like 17 minutes? To the Secretary of State of the United States of America, Pope's like, I got higher fucking power calling me. Sorry, gotta go pray and talk to God. So this is my pick number 5. Now, it's not just about this. To an extent, what I'm about to say is also thanks to Francis, but Catholicism is on the rise. Like, when was the last time? Like, there was a New York Times article from March of 26th about, like, a massive explosion of Catholicism amongst the youth. Gen Z is like, yeah, we need fucking guidance. We need meaning in our life. The Vatican is there. So, obviously, the American Pope, Leo XIV, has been around for, like, a couple of months. So, let's pump the brakes and giving him all the flowers for that. But I think he's going to do nothing but contribute to the continued rising trend of spirituality in the world. And so, and particularly with his behavior and his diplomacy, his handle of languages. And I mean, he looks like a cool dude. You know what I mean? Not sure if he can help the Chicago White Sox, but,
Yeah, a White Sox fan, not a Cubs fan.
Not a Cubs fan. I mean, shit, he knows it.
Yeah, I mean, it's it's good. This was number 5 or number 6 for you?
It was number 5.
Number 5. All right. So the Vicar of Christ on Earth is in your starting 5.
Yeah.
I don't know. Catholicism as a geopolitical power. I mean, it honestly opens up a much broader conversation about whether in a multipolar world we're going to see the rise of religion separate from states as a geopolitical power. I'm not so sure I'm convinced of that, and in that sense, I'm not sure that Leo commands that much power for me.
But this isn't about geopolitics. Let's be very clear. This is about the trade value index, right? So the trade value means, would I trade my leader of my country for Leo XIV? And what I've seen so far, I know it's a high pick for a rookie, but like, I love it. I love what I've seen so far. Calm, cool,
and a rookie
collected.
who looks through the world through a Catholic prism. I don't know that I'm...
I mean, hey, listen. If he was the president of Bangladesh, right? If he was the prime minister of Bangladesh, he obviously wouldn't be looking at the Catholic prism. I just think his stewardship so far has been impressive. And I mean, he's one of the only leaders that I've seen that's managed to get Trump to back off. So that's interesting. Okay. Not sold.
And I'd also just say,
fine.
like, he is like, he's emphasizing, this is something that President Trump is not doing. And this is something Chappelle said, actually. I think, was it in his interview with Michelle Obama or whatever, that President Trump has really spoiled a chance to be a figure of unity in the United States. Instead, he's doubled down on dividing Americans from each other. The thing I can say most in favor of Pope Leo and what you're talking about is that he is trying to be a figure of unity. For instance, he obviously has views about contraception and about the role of women and all these other things. But he's talked about how the unity or the division of the church should not revolve around these things like sexual matters. He thinks there is much greater importance on issues like justice and equality, and that the church needs a very significant overdue reorientation of its priorities. And I will say that even though I would probably disagree with most of his worldview, the fact that he is using his position to create that sense of unity and downgrading things that maybe had held the Catholic Church back in order, like that is actually an impulse that I think is not very well represented in many of the leaders on our list, and is something leaders could learn from. Like, it's easy to do demagoguery and fear and blame other people. It's much harder to be, no, I'm going to rise above the fray and unify people with my message and my mission, and he is doing that. So I'll say that in his favor.
The other thing that he's doing is he's starting to threaten excommunication against super conservative Catholic groups. So that was kind of like an interesting thing. He doesn't care. This guy feels empowered, and you know why he's right? Because he knows where the new converts are coming from. Like, tripling down on conservative Catholicism is not going to save the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
What's going to help is the kumbaya, like soft, liberal, like spirituality of the Gen Z. And so what he did is he threatened to excommunicate SSPX, which is the Society of St. Pius X, which is very popular in the US and France. They basically announced that they were going to ordain bishops without the approval of the Vatican. And the Pope was like, yeah, no, you're excommunicated, which is, kind of badass. All right. So, by the way, I'm not Catholic, so this is just a neutral, like, I'm observing this dude. He's John Paul II, right? The last kind of great pope who stood up to the Soviet Union.
I think Francis was, well, I don't know, a Jew opining on the relative virtues of popes. Like, I think Francis was pretty good. He was a much needed corrective from Ratzinger. I mean,
yeah. So, So, like, John Paul II, I think would have made like, if we were doing this in the 80s, in the 90s, we probably would have picked the Pope in the top 30 as a competent leader.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that's fair.
Number 4. So this is, I'm sticking with my, Hellenic tradition. In 2025, Mitsotakis was 4th. He's again 4th. Sorry. I got a lot of hate mail from Greeks. I love Greeks. Greeks are very similar to Serbs. We were colonized by Turks for 500 years. We just hate authority. All my Greek friends were very mad that I picked Mitsotakis. They started telling me all the ways that he's a bad prime minister. And I'm like, brother, are you kidding me? Look at your history. Like, this is as good as it gets. What are you talking about? I just want to reiterate. The economy continues to be on fire. Continue to outperform expectations. He's leading in the polls quite a bit right now, which for somebody who's been in power for a while is impressive. He has not done enough to tackle the gray economy. But let me just say one thing that nobody thought possible except for me back in 2011. The Greek 10-year bond yield is now lower than the US. Yes, I thought that would eventually happen. I did. So never was on the train that Greek would be kicked out of the Eurozone. Never was the train that Greece was making a mistake. Greek bond yields yield lower than the US. And if you don't like that, you don't like NBA basketball. That is an amazing example of how geopolitics is not linear, people.
My first memories of you are when I was a young development ADP analyst development program intern at Stratfor, and there was this random guy who would just be at his phone at all hours, speaking in multiple different languages, often pacing and yelling at people all over the place and telling people to do things. And this is what you were often talking about. You were on this so early, and you were so right. So throw some flowers back at you. It's the reason I wanted to become a cousin. So.
Oh man, that's right there. That's fucking love. You know what I mean? That's love. Debt to GDP has come under control. Excluding interest payments on debt, the budget surplus of Greece is 4.8% of GDP. What the actual fuck?
Yeah, can we trade for this guy now? This sounds good. All the fiscal conservatives should be trying to get this guy into the U.S. system.
Debt to GDP was over 200% in 2020. Not in 1974. In 2020, it is now around 150%. Italy is about to go over it. Greece is on pace to get to 100 in another 5-6 years. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, ladies and gentlemen, just stats alone, this is Shea Gilgis Alexander of fucking geopolitics. Mic drop.
I also just want to say, somewhere former Chancellor Angela Merkel is sitting in whatever room she's sitting in, reflecting on her career and thinking, see, austerity did work. I told you it was the right path.
You know what? On occasion, for certain countries, I mean, it kind of does. And I think I'm giving a lot of flowers to Mitsotakis here, but let's also be real. This was all the Greek people themselves. Because if somebody asked the United States of America to go from 11% deficit to 5% surplus, there will be 30 million people dead in this country. Okay? Because we would start shooting each other.
What was the deficit at when Clinton started? You know?
When Clinton started, yeah, I don't think it was double digits, but why don't we fact check that?
Yeah, Obama,
took the budget deficit from 8% to 3% with the Tea Party, of course. The Tea Party forced Obama to go from like 9 to 3.
Mm-hmm.
The deficit never became a surplus under Obama. But I'm saying there was a pretty significant fiscal correction in the US, and it led to a TV game show host to be elected in 2015, in 2016. Right? So austerity in America, which was much lighter than what Greeks did, led to Americans tripling down on populism. The Greeks did not. The Greeks did not triple down on populism. They chose technocratic centrism and, more good kind of capitalism. So I salute them for it. I mean,
and here I've got your data. So 1989 U.S. federal budget deficit 2.7 to 2.8% of GDP, and the first surplus under Clinton is 1998, roughly 0.6%, and then 1.3% in GDP. So over 10 years, you go from you do it.
So 10 years, 3%. Yeah. So Greece did fucking 10 years, 15%. Like, this is insane. It's insane. I think it is the most painful fiscal adjustment in history of mankind. Like, self-imposed, by the way, not like externally exposed due to a balance of payments crisis. Like, they imposed this on themselves.
And intentional. Mao's Great Leap Forward was also.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that was also, But again, I believe that something like 9 people died in Greece during this time due to protest. 4 or 5 of them in a tragedy where someone threw a Molotov cocktail into a bank. People died due to that incident. But we're talking an incredible adjustment, and just hat off to the Greek people and to their leadership. By the way, Cyprus does deserve some flowers too.
Yes.
Because he actually took the brunt of this, and I did mention that last year, so I won't belabor the point. Number 3 for me is Narendra Modi. You already picked him. You already talked about him. I regret not putting him higher last year. I was kind of like, I don't want to be the guy who thinks like Modi. Wait, what am I talking about? I put him 3rd last year too. Never mind. Never mind. I did not change. So Modi's, it's a safe pick. I don't want to talk about it. It's like picking, Nikola Jokic. Like, it's just, it is what it is. So, okay, let's move on.
He's done a great job.
Done a great job. And actually,
he has not realized his potential.
Which is crazy.
He's not. I'm trying to find the metaphor. Do you remember, like, when Jordan retired, everybody was trying to find the next Jordan, and I remember this vividly, like, because I subscribed to Sports Illustrated back then. Kids are not going to have Sports Illustrated for kids when they're growing up these days. How sad. But there was like a whole issue about how Jerry Stackhouse was the next Michael Jordan, and I was like, Jerry Stackhouse was not the next Michael Jordan. Jerry Stackhouse was a very good player. I think he was an all-star a couple of times. So like, that's Modi to me. Like, he came in being like, this guy is going to be the GOAT. And he was Jerry Stackhouse, which respectable career, highly competent.
I think he's better than Jerry Stackhouse, though.
Yeah, he's a little better than Jerry Stackhouse, but the metaphor is just like, he came in and everybody was like, oh my God, India is about to be, he's going to reform everything. He's going to fix everything. He didn't. He's run into a lot of problems. The farmer protests, like a lot of the bureaucratic reforms have not gone as well as you wanted. But hey, he's tried and he's done a lot of it. He's gotten like 60 to 70% of the way there. I worry about what he's handing off to. Yeah. And this is, I think, a theme for some of the other leaders that we're talking about. Like, who is the next Modi? Has he created a system that can outlive him, or is he really just dining off of his own charisma? His legacy will be written by that. But as we're trading trade value this year, like, I'm with you. He's up.
Yeah. So you had him 5th. I had him 3rd.
Yeah.
So
he's going to be up there.
He's going to be up there. Claudia Sheinbaum is my second. You had her sixth. We already talked about it. One thing that I would add is Mexico's economy has surprised to the upside. It was the 13th most surprising growth story, according to my AI dashboard that I created. And her polling numbers are really insane. 70, 80% approval level, and so on. All right, so that concludes. I'm going to leave the number one for you to kind of close us off. You still owe us 4-3 and 1.
Yeah, I owe 4-3-2-1, but Zelensky was my number 3, so we've done him, and Xi Jinping was my number 2, so I really owe you 4 and 1. My number 4 was my number 1 last year. This is Nayib Bukele, and he drops not because he did anything wrong, but because he's done nothing since the last time we did a trade value index. Like I was really impressed last year. I still think he's done a really hard thing. I still think he's managing El Salvador in a really good way. But what have you done for me lately, bro? Like I don't see a whole lot of movement, and you are in a really interesting moment. Like the United States is focusing on the Western Hemisphere. You're hosting top-level American officials. What are you doing with all of that? How are you translating that into anything more than self-preservation? And
we're really terrible. I just want to say, like, we're such little, like, mom's basement fucking nerds. The man is a leader of El Salvador. Like, what do we want from him? I had him also pretty high. I had him 13th. I dropped him out of top 30 for the same reason. Like, what do we expect? The leader of El Salvador.
I expect, Nayib, if you're listening, I expect you to call the cousins and say, hey, cousins, can you create a plan for me for how to empower El Salvador to be the next UAE or the Switzerland of the Western Hemisphere? Because the cousins are here for you to talk about it. You have an incredible moment in front of you to go do something. It's sort of like it's LeBron that first year he was with the Heat. Great player, one of the best in the league, incredible. But you got trashed by the Mavs because you don't have a post game. Can you go call Hakeem and figure out how to post up on the block so that you can complete your thing? Like that's what I'm telling Nayib. Like, all respect, gave you the flowers. Like, figure out how to do a dream shake, man. Like, you can do some stuff. You're in a great position.
First of all, I think if Nayib came on our podcast, he would definitely get the bump. Like you obviously get Rory got the bump. You know what I mean? Like Rory. Like I'm just kidding. I don't think Rory needed our bump. But look. I hear you on everything. You bumped it from 1 to 4, which is kind of appropriate. I bumped it from 13 to like honorable mention, and I feel kind of bad for that because it's not like crime went back up. You know what I mean? Like the things he did before are still there. I feel kind of like regretful. All right. Is this it? Is this the number one?
Do you want to serve me my humble pie, or do I need to present my humble pie myself?
So I ate a lot of humble pie with Zelensky. Yes.
Well,
now
it's time. It's time for me to have my humble pie.
Well, it's interesting you say that. I'm going to tell you. Actually, I'm not sure you need humble pie here. So obviously, for those of you listening to this, if you are in any way remotely geopolitically curious, you do know that both of us have picked the same person, and this is from Northwestern Territories of Canada, former Bank of England, curiously central bank governor, Mark Carney. Number one pick for both of us, irreplaceable. We wouldn't trade him for anybody on this list. Both Jacob and I have picked him. Now, the reason that I don't think you need to eat any humble pie, my friend, is that while you were shitting on Canada, and on my assertion that Canada can punch way above its weight and one day at appropriate level, you did shame me so much that you made me cower when we did this last time. I wanted to put Mark Carney higher than 18, but I was afraid. I was afraid of your mocking. Like a humble Canadian, I just didn't want to put my prime minister higher because I was afraid that the mean American was going to come after me yet again and tell me I'm a homer. So I did the reverse homer tax, right? Or the homer tax, and I put Carney at 17. You actually had Carney. You actually had him. No, I had him at 17. Yes, you had Carney at...
I had him at 8.
9.
Had him at 8. Or 8 or 9th, yeah.
9th. So you actually had him higher, so I don't think you actually need any humble pie. You didn't actually shit on him at any point at all. you just shat on Canada and on the 42 million people that are its citizens. But aside from that, you actually did, I think, put him appropriately. Like, look, why would we have put him higher than? Why would we put him in top 10? He was like just elected when we did this last time. So I think it was perfectly appropriate. You had him as a very high draft pick, effectively. You said, look, this kid is going to be an all-star, right? He's 18 years old. He just got into the NBA. I see it. So you picked him. I was like, well, let's see what happens. Also, I don't want you to shit on me again and make fun of me for being a homer. But for the most part, I think we had him appropriately ranked, and he has absolutely crushed 2026 and most of 2025. So Mark Carney, number one.
It's a trade value index, so I appreciate you softening the blow there. I think I'm like, what I'm kicking myself for is my ability to scout here. Like, I should have seen the potential in this guy, and I just didn't see it. So I mean, I probably would have, like, this is like Steph Curry, and I would have picked like some other guys in front of him.
Great pick. He's Steph Curry. He is Steph Curry. You know why he's Steph Curry? He's Steph Curry because being the Prime Minister of Canada is like having a slender baby-like frame in the NBA.
Yeah.
Like, dude, you're the Prime Minister of Canada. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, you're 6'3" and you weigh 180 pounds. Like, you know, like, yeah, great. You had a great career in Davidson, wherever the fuck that is. You know, shout out Davidson. No, my good friend Mark went there for 1 year. Like, it's in the middle of nowhere, North Carolina, I believe. But you know, like,
it is great school.
Great school, yeah. I mean, you know, if you want to continue your basically high school education with a bunch of like
oh, stop it. It's a great school.
Southern elites, but yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a great school.
What's wrong with Southern elites?
I mean, I know. It's like, yeah, it's great. It's a great school. But anyways, look, the point is, yeah, I think it's a great comp. Steph Curry. Mark Carney could be Steph Curry. Now, I do think he's still in that slender phase. He's still, you know, like, he needs to bulk up. And what I mean by that is he needs to land the plane on infrastructure. Canada's got a very good fiscal balance. He needs to dip into that. Get Canada deeper into debt. Like, come on, Mark, you know this. You got to finish those pipelines. You got to get British Columbia to accept, like, transit of crude, transit of natural resources. And you need to make Canada an absolute and utter natural resource powerhouse. Yes, you should build refineries. You should get rare earth mineral processing, all that stuff. But he is number one on both of our lists. So, yeah, I mean, hopefully,
and the Steph Curry metaphor keeps being perfect, because the first couple of years of Steph's career, nobody thought he was going to be anything because he kept on messing up his ankles.
Yep.
And he had to strengthen his ankles and get stronger before he could actually do it. So, like, Mark Carney, he's shooting the shots. It's all nothing but net in Davos, nothing but net with the deal with China, nothing but net with the Middle East, nothing but net with calling elections. Like, he's just doing it all. But we got to strengthen those ankles, man. Like, it's go time.
And by the way, the special elections that he managed to win, including a tricky one in Terrebonne, Quebec, were very impressive. That's like trading Monte Ellis. You know, like, what, he got the majority. Yeah. He doesn't need to rely on anyone else. Bye-bye, Monte. And Liberal Party is at 45% support, which is 10% more than the Tories, and insane. I mean, look at what's going on in the United Kingdom, for God's sakes. You know what I mean? Like, the Tories and the Labour Party are about to, like, cease to exist. That hasn't happened in Canada, and partly I think it's because the policymakers are just of higher quality, to be honest with you, than in the UK.
Yeah. We talked about the Pope earlier. Can this Jew serve as advocatus diaboli for a second here, the devil's advocate, and turn it around on you, cousin, and say, well, first of all, just one thing. I think I've already mentioned this on the podcast. One of the things that opened my eyes about Carney was I gave a speech in Brandon, Manitoba, in Canada. If you're out there and you're listening, like middle of nowhere, Canada, this is not an audience that is predisposed to like someone like Mark Carney. And this was back in January, so he was still relatively fresh. It's before Davos and all that other stuff. I didn't hear a bad word about him, not the entire time. And that's when I was like, okay, this guy's a little different, because these people should be saying bad things about him, and they're not. Like, there's some kind of magic here. But if we do have listeners out there who are like, come on, man, Mark Carney, liberal Canadian guy, like, we don't need this. Like, what is the rejoinder to the Canadian that is listening who does not like Mark Carney, who would have drafted Johnny Flynn before Steph Curry? Like, how would you respond to
that? I mean, I guess you could say that he's still new. I mean, that would be like, why did you draft Johnny Flynn ahead of Steph Curry? Well, because he's an unknown quantity. The ankles are iffy, and he weighs 182 pounds. Like, so I guess that. I mean, if
he's a liberal weenie, technocratic whisperer who goes from technocratic place to technocratic place. Okay, he's not Trudeau, but like Trudeau was a nothing burger. Like, is this guy really going to do it? He's talking a big game about infrastructure, but it's very easy to talk a big game. Now you actually got to do it, and how are you going to do it? And you got USMCA coming up. Like, like there's a critique there.
But look, the one thing about Bill Simmons, praise be upon him. So one of the things about our Lord and Savior Bill Simmons is that when he does this trade value ranking, like he tends to, like, I think Wembanyama is number one right now. Why? He hasn't done shit. But it's the age, it's the contract, it's the potential. In other words, would you trade Luka Doncic for Wembanyama?
No.
Like, yeah. I mean, I would.
You would trade if you would want to get, if you had Luka, you would. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, you would trade Luka for Wembanyama. Yeah.
Would you trade Jokic? I'm Serbian, for God's sakes.
I would not. For me, Jokic is number one. I wouldn't trade Jokic.
Okay, fine. That's fine. But like, but let me make the case for why. Because, well, Wemby is 8 years younger. He's on a lower contract. So one of the reasons that we do have Mark Carney as number one, for those of you who are like, wow, what fucking homers, at least in Marco's case, one of the reasons we have Mark Carney is that unrealized potential. Like, that is why it's there. I mean, what we've seen so far, we really like, but we need to, but it is because we don't know where he can go almost, that you do. Like someone like Modi is like, okay, we know what the ceiling of Modi is. He's hit the ceiling. It's great. He's number 3, but we would trade Modi and get Carney back. Now, I'm going to summarize our 45 really quickly. So for those of you who want to accelerate this to 3x, feel free to do that. I just want to go over it for us, and then we're going to do some statistics. Just some fun stuff about our picks. And shout out to my good friend Jose who put this thing together. First of all, my pick, number 45, Jens Frederick Nielsen from Greenland. Yeah, shout out to the guy in a hoodie. Who, for the most part, looked like an absolutely shocked college student pulled out of his dorm in the middle of the night to handle a homicide. But he did it well. Abiy Ahmed from Ethiopia, that was yours. Cyril Ramaphosa, so 44-43. Balin Shah from Nepal, shout out to our Gen Z guy, 42. Friedrich Merz dropped massively to 41. Anura Kumara Disanayake, 40. Peter Magyar, 39. That's a draft pick for both of us. To Lam, Vietnam. That was your pick, I believe. 38. Great pick. Ulf Kristersson, Sweden. I just can't stop putting Swedes. I just love Sweden and Swedes and everything about Sweden. 37. Recep Tayyip Erdogan. You just can't quit the man. 36. Ilham Aliyev, 35. Pedro Sanchez, 34, about to face the full brunt of American anger. Like America, after it's done with Iran, buddy, it's not going to Cuba, it's going to Spain. So good luck, Pedro.
I know that's a joke, but I think it's going to Cuba. Like there's we'll talk about that later too.
We'll talk about that. Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, 33. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Nigeria. I love the fact that we finally put some, sub-Saharan Africa here, thanks to you. 32. Ahmed al-Shara, Syria. He made it to 31 again. Now, top 30. Iran's Leadership Council. Iran.
Can't believe they made it to the top 30. They're happy to be. They're just happy to be here. They're happy to be at the All-Star game.
They're just launching missiles. You know what I mean? From 3 feet outside the 3-point line. Kasim Yomart Tokayev. He dropped quite a bit from last year to 29, which is fine. Let's see here. Tokayev. Okay, Mohammed bin Zayed is 28, so a drop off for UAE. I think you got something there. Both of us kind of re-ranked some of the Middle Eastern leaders, but still in the top 30. Benjamin Netanyahu.
Well, I think you still had MBZ. He's off my list. Like I'm done with him.
That was me. So he made the list because of me. Benjamin Netanyahu, 27, made the list because of you. I backed out. Mate Frederiksen, Denmark, 26. Emmanuel Macron, 25. Daniel Noboa, Ecuador, 24. Javier Milei also dropped to 23, but still pretty good. King Abdullah II of Jordan, 22. Anwar Ibrahim, 21. Sanae Takachi from Japan, 20. Very high on your list, not on my list. So unfortunately, she did drop from 10 to 20. Bernardo Arevalo, Guatemala, 19. Nikos Christodoulidis, Cyprus, 18. Alexander Stubb, 17. Kyriakos Mitsotakis, 16. Naib Bukele, 15. And now we get into some of the ones that we both had. Prabowo Subianto, Indonesia, 14. Lula da Silva, 13. Mohammed bin Salman, 12. Mian Mohammed Shabaz Sharif, 11. That was Pakistan, which we both had.
Yeah.
So he's 11, even though we both had him at 20. But when you combine it, he goes up. Giorgia Meloni. So this is the top 10. Giorgia Meloni dropped, but still in the top 10. At number 10, Lee Jae-myung, Korea, number 9. East Asian leader in the top 10. Lawrence Wong, also East Asia, Southeast Asia, Singapore, 8. Mohammed VI, Morocco, 7. Shavkaz Mirziyoyev, Uzbekistan, 6. Xi Jinping, 5. Volodymyr Zelensky, 4. Narendra Modi, 3. Claudia Sheinbaum, 2. And our new number 1 is Mark Carney. Now, last year, the top 10.
Well, and it looks like to me from the data that Sheinbaum and Modi are actually tied for number 2, just to say.
Yes, that is correct. So they are tied. But we're giving Sheinbaum a bump there because, you know why? Because
tacos are good. What?
Mexico's awesome. Well, actually, Indian food, honestly,
also awesome.
I like Indian food more. All right, last year, just for those of you who are wondering, Cyril Ramaphosa was 10. Oof. That's Anthony Albanese made the top 10 last year, which is,
Did he?
Yeah, I mean, it's, okay, whatever. Like, it's not bad. Millet was 8, so he did drop quite a bit. Mark Carney was 7. Modi was 6. Bukele was 5. Mohammed bin Zayed was 4. So huge drop for him. Mohammed bin Salman was 3. So he actually is pretty good. He went from 3 to 12. That's not a bad thing. Giorgia Meloni was 2nd. She's 10 now. And Claudia Sheinbaum still 2 years in a row. Pretty good score. Okay, so let's deal with one issue before we go to some data analysis. Okay. Donald Trump. Last year, I think it was harder to keep him off of top 30 because he was doing stuff that was unconventional. I think there was, a lot of promise. We did this list, I think, before the Liberation Day. But we both were like, okay, we need to handle how do we think about Donald Trump? I mean, he just won re-election in a very impressive manner. It was kind of a landslide. Fine, TDSDS, like I'm taking the hit. But like, look, the point was we had a case we needed to defend the case that he's out of the top 30. And one of the things I said is that it's very difficult for a president of the United States of America to make my top 30. Yeah. Because it's like, how do you rank Dwayne Wade's trade value when he's surrounded by Hall of Famers in Miami Heat? Like, America is a super team. And I kind of think like my chocolate Labrador could run it. So it's difficult to say.
I would vote for your chocolate Labrador at this point. That sounds good.
But see, that's the thing. Now we have more data, and there has been. I'm all for heat checks. Like, you have Bukele ranked basically very high, because you like that he is doing very difficult things. So I have no problem with somebody who comes in and says, "Hey, I'm going to disrupt the system." We actually clearly like those people. We put them high on our list. It's just that, is it too much disruption? And is it incorrect disruption? Like the war in Hormuz, just like the Greenland thing, which his own members of the party have called weapons grade stupid. It gets to a point where like being against consensus and being controversial, if that's all you want to do, like, but to what end? And I think that's where he definitely, like, we don't have to debate why he's not in the top 30. Last year, I think we did. This year, I don't think we need to.
Yeah, I think he's also just, I mean, this would have been harder if we had done this right after Venezuela, because right after
Exactly.
Venezuela,
Yes.
Tariffs had not done what everybody thought they were, or had not, made the situation as bad as everybody thought. Although inflation was starting to creep up, like you were beginning to see a little bit in the data. But Venezuela was a coup, and it looked like they were going to go on to Cuba and do some of these other things, and the hemispheric strategy was making sense. Yeah, in the context of Iran, though, and
That's it.
the drop in his poll numbers and inflation coming back, and the Republicans looking to get slaughtered in the midterms. I mean, it's just. I probably wouldn't have put him on the list anyway, but it would have been much harder to have this conversation on like January 15th. Today, it's like laughable. Like he might be the worst leader, and like he might be on the lowest end he might have the least trade value of any leader in the world today if we were doing like the bottom of the list based on what he's done. I might go that far.
I think after Venezuela, I would have put him definitely on the list. So you're right. I really do like gunboat diplomacy as applied to the current geopolitical context. And that was a greatly executed example of that. But then he's kind of, wasted that away by getting America stuck into another quagmire. But look, he still has a chance to exit. Things in Iran, could be resolved over the next month or 2 or 3 without a negative effect on the economy. Jury is still out, but yes, he does not make our list.
Is
All
the
right.
jury still out? I'm surprised that you're saying that the jury's still out. Like for me, the jury has already returned, and this is a disaster. It's just about how big of a disaster it is.
I think it's a disaster, but one of the things that we both like in leaders is that when they fuck up and then they like cut their losses. So one of the things that was a disaster was Zelensky's counteroffensive, like idiotic, attacking Russia, weapons grade stupid. Okay, putting your best troops and having them be captured inside Russian territory. What are you thinking? But as you said, he cut his losses and he pivoted. So if President Trump cuts his losses, despite what it's going to do to domestic popularity, his ego, defense hawks making fun of him, all that stuff, if he can cut his losses on this, but he's got to do it quick.
I think the ship has already sailed. I think the losses are in. He missed his opportunity to cut his losses.
I don't think so.
In my opinion. Maybe I'm a little bit too...
over the last 24 hours, 30 ships went through Strait of Hormuz. I'm just going to say that. Right? So like what we can have, one way to cut your losses is just to allow the blockades to be very permeable. That would be one way to do it without, like, he doesn't have to have a deal with Iran to cut his losses. I think there's ways that he can do that, but again, he's not on the list. I don't think we need to debate that that much. All right, I have some data for you here.
Great.
Okay, so first of all, biggest movers from 2025 to 2026. Mohammed bin Zayed, the worst mover from 6 to 58.
Enjoy Galveston, Mohammed. We're sending you to Galveston, that dirty ass water.
So is that gone fishing?
It's gone fishing, but usually they send him like Cancun and stuff like that. There's that sketch where Barkley, when he was dismissing my Pelicans because they performed so poorly, it's like, we're not sending y'all to Disney World or anything. We're sending you to Galveston, that dirty ass water where people think that's the beach. They think they're at the beach, and it's Galveston. Sorry for our listeners from Galveston.
I mean, he did still make the list, but yes, you're right.
Only because of you. He is off my list. You can send him to Cancun if you want. I'm sending him to Galveston. Go to Galveston, Mohammed. I'm done.
Cyril Ramaphosa, 18 to 64. By the way, 64 is his combined score. So we're doing this with scores, just to be clear. So we're using a different quantitative measure here, not their ranking, but just the score, because it's more profound, right? It's more profound because it illustrates not the combined ranking, but the actual how many points they scored. Nayib Bukele, actually from 7 to 52. That's my fault. I'm sorry. I'm the reason that he is that low. Javier Milei, 14 to 56. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, 20 to 62. So we both had him last time. He went down to 62. Friedrich Merz. We were very disappointed. We talked about it, both of us. Mm-hmm. We both still have him on the list. No, I don't actually. I don't.
You don't. I had him at the very bottom of my list. But
so 22 to 64. Ilham Aliyev, 24 to 62. Emmanuel Macron, 25 to 57. So those are the worst movers. In terms of the best performance, Lawrence Wong, 18 to 15. Anwar Ibrahim, 62 to 56. Mark Carney, 13 to 1. Lula da Silva, 60 to 22. Interesting. Prabowo Subianto, I had him last year. You didn't, but now we both have him 62 to 24.
Yeah, and that's too high for him. There's a couple names that I'm like, there's something there about because he's low on both of. He's like in the 20s in both our lists that he gets the bump, but like he's too high on the combined list in my opinion.
Actually, I think a lot of these improvements are Mohammed VI. I love the King of Morocco, but like he's the third best mover. Interesting. Xi Jinping deserves it, 53 to 8. Yeah, definitely. And then Shavkat Mirziyoyev, you crushed it last year by putting him. He's the biggest mover, 57 to 10. Who do we favor in terms of ideology? All right. Well, this is going to be very revealing. It's actually kind of, the same. So I really like centrists. You really like center-right and authoritarians. Intriguingly, I would have expected, this is by the way in 2026. In 2025, I really like monarchy. We equally like authoritarians. But I tend to pick centrists. So I'm much stronger with centrists. You seem to be much, much stronger with the right. This is so interesting. So
That is interesting.
I
Maybe I'm
pick-
overcompensating.
yeah, so I pick center left and centrists. You pick center right and authoritarians. This is so funny. Hey, listen, we didn't compile the data, but this is so funny. I'm the guy with TDS, DS, but I picked leftists and centrists. You have TDS, but you pick right wing and even nationalist right. So
Hey, I just care about competency, guys. Like ultimately, if you're putting in the work, I'm good. My problem with Trump has never been his ideology. I wish that he would follow through on some of the things that he talked about on the campaign trail. I agree with some of them. He's just incompetent and deranged.
yeah, so like in terms of the count, I picked 9 people. No, I picked 8 of my top 30 are from the center left. You picked 6. Center, I picked 6. You picked 5. Center right. I actually picked more of that. Interesting. But yeah, nationalist right. Man, you like nationalist right. You had 5. I had 2. And then authoritarian. You can't quit on like dictators. 8 to my 5. So that's interesting.
My bias is competency.
Your bias is gone. Well, I guess mine is too. I mean, I'm picking leftists who are.
No, I now have the data to be able to call you out as a liberal weenie. This is wonderful. Nobody can come at me anymore about Trump.
This is true.
Derangement.
This is true. This is true. Jacob has really doubled down on authoritarianism, so that's awesome. Even though I believe I got a lot of hate mail for when we started the podcast because I had like a full-throated defense of authoritarianism. Well, I didn't really pick those people, so that's interesting. All right, regional picks. This is also very revealing, I think, of our intellectual biases.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2025, I had 33% of my top 15 from Middle East, 27% from Europe, 20% of Americas. Only 7% of my top 15 in 2025 were from Asia Pacific, 7% from Africa, 7% from Central Asia. You in 2025 had the same number from Europe. So I had 27%, you had 27%. Your Americas was the same as mine, but you replaced Middle East with Asia Pacific.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. So I had a lot of Middle East leaders in my top 15. You had a lot of Asia Pacific. And I mean, this reveals what we've also focused on as well. So that makes sense. This year, I retained 14% of my top 15 in the Middle East. You have 0% in the Middle East.
0% in the Middle East. That's wonderful. 0% of my top 15 in the Middle East. I don't know why anybody should be saluting leaders in the Middle East.
You do have Benjamin Netanyahu the highest at 17, but yes.
At 17, but not my top 15.
Yeah, top 15, I still have, who do I have in my top 15 here? From the Middle East, I have, Mohammed VI and King Abdullah II or Jordan. I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with both of those picks. They deserve it. Okay, so Europe, I actually went up to 36%. You went down to 20. And you've triple-clicked on Americas. You went from 20% in 25 to 40% in 2026. Your Asia Pacific is still the same 33%. I actually increased Asia Pacific from 7 to 21. My Americas is still 21%, same. So I've decreased Middle East, increased Europe. We both have 7%, so one pick in Central Asia. I believe it is this time the same person. Yes. Uzbekistan's Shavkat Mirziyoyev. So he's there. So that's interesting. Regional, ideological. I'm not sure I learned anything about this, except that, yeah, both of us can
Except that you're a liberal weenie. That's what I'm going to be lording this over you for the next 12 months. This is wonderful.
See, now you're going to make me compensate like you did. You bullied me with Mark Carney last year. I just want that to be clear to everyone. Jacob bullied me, and Mark Carney dropped out of our top 10 last year as a result. Actually, no. He was in the top 10 thanks to your pick. So he was number 7. But he's number 1 now. I think this is good. Mark Carney 1, Claudia Sheinbaum 2, Modi 3, Zelensky 4, Xi Jinping 5. That is, I'll go to war with that starting 5.
Yeah. No,
you got everything you need. You know,
yeah.
You got long distance shooting of Steph Curry. You've got the smooth jumper of consistency with no dribbles of Claudia Sheinbaum. That's your Klay Thompson. You've got the hard fucking nose picks, the fighting, the bullying of Vladimir Zelensky, right? That's your Draymond. Modi, I think he's like Iguodala, you know?
A glue guy? Yeah, he's a glue guy.
He's a glue guy, yeah. I mean, he's like, you know what you get. Xi Jinping, maybe KD on those like crazy warrior teams.
He's difficult to class. He's in some ways the most difficult to classify. He's got the highest degree of difficulty, but he's the authoritarian, and how much of it is him versus where China's been. Like it's hard to. I mean, I like the Jokic comp for him. Like he makes everybody around him better, but has had some middling success maybe at the very, very top levels. That's why you call in Steph for when you need a closer.
I think one of our listeners compared it to Jokic, or maybe we did. But one thing I will say is like, it is a good comp. And it's a good comp because what we discussed on one of our podcasts is that he's aloof. He's not in it. He's not emotional. He doesn't get involved. He did not solve the Ukraine war. He didn't solve Hormuz. And you and I had a debate about whether that's smart or not. Jokic's aloofness was seen as a cute like attribute. Like, oh, that's cool. Like he cares about horses and stuff. But like, let's pump the brakes on Jokic being the top 10 greatest of all time. He's got one chip. I don't see any horizon on which he gets another one right now. Like, this team is dead, and his lack of energy, emotion, and aloofness could be hurting him. He did not go into takeover mode against the Timberwolves. He waited too long. He was giving passes too much. And so I think it is an appropriate analogy. I think that Xi Jinping has all the tools to be the GOAT, but like this aloofness, I don't think that's a strength. I don't think that for Jokic also it's a strength.
It's not, but I mean what you're talking, one of the reasons that he lost is because he's going up against teams that have more resources. So I mean, if the Nuggets were fully healthy, he would have had a healthy Aaron Gordon and a healthy Jamal Murray. But sort of, I mean, if we really want to painfully extend this metaphor to China, what is Aaron Gordon? Is Aaron Gordon the property market or the real estate market in China? Like you've got a fundamental weakness there. So when you're going up and doing battle against a Canada, which just has a much deeper rotation and can pull into a lot of other different things, you're not going to do well there. Even if Jokic, like I actually think he does belong in that top 10 conversation. He doesn't stand a chance against OKC. Like his team just isn't there. And if Gordon is not healthy, he doesn't stand a chance against the Timberwolves if Gordon is not there doing his thing. So
fair. That's fair, but they should not have lost to the Timberwolves. And all I will say is that it's a very interesting comparison, right? You have all the tools, you have the numbers that are historic. It's just that I do think like there's just like one extra gear that maybe you yourself are refusing to enter. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like maybe you do need to score 50 in a series against the Timberwolves. And Jokic realized that too late. And I think in this case, maybe Xi Jinping does need to step into Hormuz crisis.
But this goes to the deep psychology of Xi Jinping. And I mean, people have done this work. Like his version of going to score 50 is Mao. And he experienced firsthand what Mao was like. So he's just not going to, I mean,
I agree with you.
Maybe he'll have to do it, but he's looking at that and saying, I can't do that because if I do that, it's not going to work either. So it's a tremendous amount of discipline. think about
But
it.
for both Xi and Jokic, I do think that whatever the reason is for that break, I think that aloofness hurts them. And then rounding out the top 10, Uzbekistan at 6, Mirziyoyev, Morocco at 7, Singapore at 8. These are kind of degree of difficulty people that we put in here. Korea's Lee Jae-myung at 9, Meloni at 10. And then shout out to Sharif from Pakistan, who did make both of our lists in the 20s, but climbs to 11 when we combine him. So that's it.
Yeah. I also,
anything...
But before we leave, I just want to double down on that conversation about Jokic and Xi, because I think part of the problem, and the biggest problem for Xi is that the biggest problem for Jokic is that he's just not nearly as good a defensive player as he is an offensive player. He's fine on defense. He's serviceable, but he's not going to change the game with his defense the way that Michael Jordan did or the way that LeBron could at his time. And I think that's a very good metaphor for China as well. China's just not a formidable two-way player at this point. And Xi Jinping is trying to get them there. So he's sort of like Jokic today, but he's trying to add defense to the toolkit. Jokic, I mean, in the conversation about the GOAT, there's a certain level he just can't go to because of the position he plays, because of the size that he is. He's just not going to be able to affect defense the way that Jordan did or the way that, Embiid did when he was at the peak of his power. It's just not there for him, and that's always going to limit like his inclusion.
Listen, I like the way you put that. Right? Not to make this suddenly about Nikola Jokic after 4 hours of talking about geopolitics and political leaders. But the proof is in the pudding. And you can't be top 10 player of all time with one chip. And your point is like, well, that's not his fault, right? And similarly with China, like the proof is in the pudding. You can't be goated leader of a country if you don't fulfill its potential. And China is the second largest economy. Like it's, in many ways, eating everyone's lunch on a number of different things. But then, your counter is like, well, Aaron Gordon, which is the real estate market. Mm-hmm. Well, domestic consumption, which is Jamal Murray's flaccid performance. So like you go through all these things and you start making excuses for them. And I that's fair. As a Serb who loves Jokic, like inherently, like I appreciate your attempt, but chips are chips. And there's a global crisis where China could wave its fucking hand and solve it right now. It really could. And it's not stepping up its game.
Well, people should go back and listen to that China episode if they haven't already. I'm sure you saw, like a couple days after we recorded, the Chinese hosted Iran's foreign minister in Beijing. Nothing has quite come of it yet, but maybe they're already on that road,
But has it not, right? Because over the last 24 hours, we're recording this on May 14th. It's going to be released later, but like over the last
this will be next week. We're also going to record tonight, and that one will come out tomorrow. So it's an interesting window into
But like your point is very valid. Like last week they did meet, and then we got 30 ships through Hormuz, including Chinese. So maybe you are right. Maybe they have finally decided. It's that moment when Jokic just is on the top of the 3-point line. He surveys the field, looks for a pass on the left, looks for a pass on the right, and it says, fuck this shit. Turns his big Serbian ass into whoever's guarding him, and then backs them up all the way to the basket, turns around and does that ugly baby hook. Like, brother, you got to do that. And hopefully, for the sake of all of us, China's decided to say, you know what, I'm not going to pass this to Pakistan on a deep cut. I'm not going to try to float this to Sri Lanka on the 3-point line. It turns around and just backs Iran down and says, listen, I'm sorry US was mean to you, but you got to open the strait. So we'll see. This was a lot of fun. I got to tell you, this 4 hours plus of this, we're going to try to cut this into 3. And if you manage to listen through all of this, I hope you learned something. I hope you laughed at our mistakes from last year, and I hope you will laugh at our mistakes when we do this next year.
I'm sure you will, but I'm pretty sure I didn't put anybody on the list who is not actually a global leader. So I'm already doing better than I did.
We
did it last year.
You know what? Let me tell you, the fact that you did that made me go wait a minute. So yes, I am glad that we both did that. That we did not mess that. Any final words that you want to say about this?
No, just if you like this episode, somebody let the Ringer folks know that this exists. Like y'all need to let them know that this thing is happening. But I thought this is a very fun exercise, and it actually forces me to think about leaders in a different way. It forces me to expand my range a little bit. It's just a very useful exercise besides being a fun one. So I hope the listeners enjoy it, but I actually found it educational.
Can I just say one last thing?
Please.
We may have put someone on this list who is no longer a leader.
Who?
Well, this is the problem of doing this over 2 weeks. Denmark had an election.
Oh, okay. That's fine. No. But
Mette
when you made the
Frederiksen-
pick, when you made the pick, she was still a leader.
I know,
I
but
think
she just tore her ACL. You know what I mean? She's out for 18 months.
Well, that's an active guy. You can't predict
We'll
when somebody's
see.
going to tear the ACL.
We'll see. She
know?
failed to form a coalition 5 days ago, and the king of Denmark has asked the right-wing leader to actually try to form a government. So we'll see. It's TBD. But it does look like Mette Frederiksen, despite standing up to Donald Trump and having the balls to prepare Greenland for an invasion, might not be with us anymore. So that's okay. She was
at least when you made the pick, she was still a leader. Last year, I literally picked someone who was not a leader and hadn't been for many months. Like there's a little
yeah. My pick was very bad though, because she did tear her ACL right after being drafted.
Okay, that's fine. Like, you didn't read the health or you saw the health report and you're like, you know what? I just like the potential. If the ACL blows, fine. Like I lost the draft pick.
I like what she did last year. Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, thanks everyone. This was a lot of fun to coordinate and MC. Can't wait for this 12 months from now. Honestly, this is maybe my favorite podcast to record. So thank you, Jacob, for your patience. I know you got to go. You and I are actually going to record something later tonight that will go out right away. So hopefully everybody listens to this, and hopefully by the time we release the trade value list, one of these leaders has not done something profoundly stupid.
Yeah, or has done something profoundly brilliant.
Fair.
All right.